Hey, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about the cost of living in Louisville, Kentucky. Hey, I'm Matt Gatewood, Principal Broker of Gatewood Properties of Kentucky. And today we're going to talk about the cost of living in Louisville. One of the advantages that I've talked about on previous video is the low cost of living in the city. As of 2022, the 88.4 is the average cost of living. What does that number mean? Well, 100 is the national average. Anything above that would be above the national average of cost of living. Anything below that is below the average cost of living. So 88.4 is pretty decently below the 100 mark. Where does that number come from? Well, they take averages of different things: transportation, real estate, food, fuel, all that sort of thing, and they look at all these different categories and see is the price, kind of where it falls in that category up to next to 100. And in the case of Louisville, it averages out to 88.4. So as an example, one of the categories is above the mark, which is transportation, which would include fuel, insurance, that sort of stuff. But because other categories are below that, real estate being one, which we'll talk further about, that it brings that overall average down. As a personal note, ones that I notice is when I'm traveling, I'm out and about, is eating out. I've always found it interesting. I feel like you get a lot of food for the money when you go out to eat in Louisville. That doesn't mean that you're not going to go someplace and be like, oh, this is kind of pricey. But I always feel like whenever I go somewhere else, I'm like, this really comes out pretty well here. It's not only have we got a lot of food choices, but it's not as bad, in my opinion, when looking at it. Just kind of this is a personal practical note. Obviously, it has that from a statistical perspective, but also it's something I've always noticed. Talking about the real estate part, which I alluded to, was typically Louisville has just a more steady growth. So outside of the 2020 to 2022 years, Louisville just kind of more gradually goes up with the real estate. We don't see a lot of the things you would see in certain areas of the country where you see larger swings. As a result of that, obviously no guarantees with anything, but the zip codes there were a couple of zip codes, three in particular during the Great Recession, that actually still either held value or still went up. So there are some other areas of town that got hit a little bit harder, but overall, because of that kind of steady growth that we normally have seen outside of the last couple of years, you kind of get a read of it. And so we look at those statistics as well, and I have tools to be able to dig into that further based on zip code and things of that sort. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about that cost of living today. As one of the big pros to living in Louisville is that it is at the 88.4 average, below that 100 mark for it. And we still have plenty of opportunities with a lot of companies that are here, Fortune 500s, or a lot even the small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses are here as well. So if you get any other questions about real estate, what I experienced from a cost of living perspective, anything like that, feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk. Any other questions about the real estate or anything about the city, like, subscribe. I've got the channel going here that talks about real estate, some specifics, but also just what's it like living in Louisville, Kentucky. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one.